Please,
You
he's
think
just
I
a
stole your
child. Don't
diamonds?
do this.
The
Mommy,
maid
no.
whispered,
I wanna
trembling.
stay with her.
The
Get away from her
billionaire's
right
wife
now.
smirked.
You are coming
You
with
were
me.
the only one near my jewelry, but before she could say another word, a small voice echoed from the staircase. Mom, I saw what really happened. Then in that moment, the entire house went silent in the grand Sterling estate. Well, hung in the air like perfume, heavy, intoxicating, and dangerous behind its glittering chandeliers and marble floors. Secrets whispered through the halls, and in the center of it all stood Marianne Sterling, the billionaire's elegant wife, graceful, cold, and obsessed with control, but beneath her flawless exterior lived a heart that feared one thing more than scandal: exposure. Her name was Lila James, a quiet woman in her 40s, with calloused hands and soft brown eyes that seemed to understand pain. She had worked for the Sterlings for 6 years, loyal, respectful, invisible every morning before dawn. She polished silver, washed linen, and packed the young master's school lunch with care, always leaving a note inside: be kind. That's the richest thing you can be. The boy, Ethan, adored her. She was the only warmth he knew in that cold mansion. But one evening, that warmth was about to be turned into fire. It began with a scream. Marianne's voice sliced through the marble. "Oh, my diamond bracelet! It's gone!" Servants froze. Security rushed in. The air filled with panic. The bracelet was worth more than most people's homes. A wedding gift from her husband, Victor Sterling, a self-made billionaire. Within minutes, suspicion found its way to Lila. She had cleaned the master bedroom. That morning, Marianne's eyes narrowed. "You were alone in my room, weren't you?" Lila's voice was calm but trembling. "Yes, ma'am. But I would never take what isn't mine." Marianne crossed her arms. "We'll see about that." Check her quarters. The guards searched Lila's small living space, neatly kept, humble, smelling faintly of detergent and lavender. And then one of them pulled open a drawer. There it was. The diamond bracelet. Gasps filled the room. Marianne smiled coldly. "Well, that settles it." Lila's knees weakened. No, I don't understand. I've never seen that before." But no one listened. Even Victor looked away. Only Ethan stood frozen at the door, his small hands shaking. "Dad," he whispered. "Lila wouldn't do that." Victor sighed heavily. "Go upstairs, son. This is not your concern." But the boy's eyes filled with tears. He knew something the others didn't. That morning, when Lila had been cleaning, Ethan had seen someone else slip into his mother's room. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. A man, the family's chauffeur, Gavin. He had whispered something to Marianne, laughter echoing in the hall, and handed her the same velvet box that now sat open on the table. Ethan hadn't understood then, but now everything clicked. He wanted to speak, but fear sealed his lips. He was just a child, and his mother's anger was a storm he'd learned never to stand in. That night, Lila sat outside the mansion gates, tears streaking down her face. Her job, her reputation, gone. But what hurt most wasn't the humiliation. It was the thought that little Ethan might believe she was a thief. Days passed. The mansion grew quiet. Victor avoided his wife's eyes. He'd seen the cold satisfaction on Marianne's face when Lila was escorted out. And something about it didn't sit right, but Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lila's tears. Heard her voice saying, "Be kind." One night, he couldn't take it anymore. He crept down to his mother's jewelry cabinet, the one where she claimed the bracelet was missing, and inside, he found something strange. A note in Gavin's handwriting. It read, "No one will ever know about us. You can keep the bracelet." Ethan's heart pounded. He snapped a photo with his tablet and ran to his father's office. "Dad," he whispered, "I know who took it." Victor looked at the photo. Confusion shifting into horror. The truth hit like lightning. Gavin, the chauffeur, had been having an affair with his wife, and when it ended, she had planted the bracelet to frame the maid. To save her own image, Victor's face turned pale. He'd been blind. That night, He drove to the small apartment where Lila now lived. The city lights flickering outside. She opened the door, eyes swollen from crying. He couldn't meet her gaze. "Lila," he said quietly, "I made a mistake. My wife." She lied. Her hands trembled, disbelief and relief colliding inside her. Victor continued, his voice breaking. "My son showed me proof. You were innocent. You always were." She didn't respond. She just looked at him, and for the first time, he saw not a maid, but a woman of immense dignity. "Sir," she said softly, "truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand long enough to be seen." The next morning, the Sterling mansion was no longer silent. Victor confronted Marianne in front of the household staff. "Where's Gavin?" he demanded. She tried to act surprised, but the tremor in her hands gave her away. "He's gone," she muttered. "He left the city." Victor slammed the photo on the table. "You framed an innocent woman to hide. Your shame." Marianne's composure shattered. Her eyes darted to Ethan, who stood beside his father, watching silently. "Mom," he said quietly, "I thought we were supposed to tell the truth." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. Marianne's face crumbled. For the first time, she looked small because wealth could buy silence, but not innocence. Victor rehired Lila the same day, but she refused. "I can't come back." "Sir," she said gently, "forgiveness is easy when you're rich, but forgetting takes a poor heart a lifetime." Still, she accepted his apology. And before she left, she knelt to Ethan's level, her eyes full of love. "Never let lies win, child. Even if it costs you everything." Ethan nodded, tears glistening. "I won't, Lila." The Sterling's marriage ended quietly. Marianne moved abroad. Chasing the illusion of luxury. Victor devoted himself to rebuilding what truly mattered: trust, not image. He started a foundation in Lila's name, offering education to domestic workers' children, so no one who served would ever be forgotten again. And every year, Ethan visited Lila's new home, a small place by the sea, filled with warmth and books. Once, he asked her, "Do you hate my mom?" Lila smiled. "Hate is too heavy to carry, dear. I'd rather keep my hands free for kindness." On Lila's birthday, Victor and Ethan arrived with a gift wrapped simply. Tied with gold ribbon. Inside was a new bracelet. "Not diamonds, but pearls." Victor said quietly, "These belong to my mother. She always said they were for a woman of grace." Lila's eyes filled with tears. The boy hugged her, whispering, "You were always family," and for the first time in years, Lila allowed herself to cry, not from pain, but from peace. Sometimes, the ones with the least power carry the most honor, and sometimes it takes a child's voice to bring truth where adults have lost their courage. Respect those who serve quietly, because behind their silence often lies a strength greater than any fortune. If this story touched your heart, share it. Tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories that remind the world kindness is wealth that never runs out.